After forming a new government in Afghanistan, the Taliban is holding diplomatic meetings. Afghanistan's economy and the emerging humanitarian crisis have been high on the agenda list. In the latest meeting, Taliban leaders arrived in Russia to attend the Moscow format talks. 10 countries, including India, China, Pakistan, and host Russia, were present at the meeting to solely discuss Afghanistan. The Taliban managed to get backing for international humanitarian aid.
We are convinced that the time has come to mobilize the resources of the world community to provide effective financial and economic humanitarian assistance to Kabul in order to prevent a humanitarian crisis and curb migration flows.
The congregation proposed an international donors conference as well. The United States and its allies like NATO were called on specifically to contribute given their level of involvement in Afghanistan over the past 20 years. But humanitarian aid is not enough to save Afghanistan's economy from sinking and starting a humanitarian crisis. This is because the aid is often in the form of goods like food or medical aid and not cash, which is needed to run a country. The Taliban needs hard cash or currency to run the country.
All countries with almost one voice called on the US to end its financial prohibitions on Afghanistan and to unfreeze Afghanistan's assets because this money is for the Afghan people and they were receiving their salaries from it, and therefore the US has no right to freeze these funds.
Over $9 billion in central bank reserves was lost when the Biden administration froze assets held at US banks. Other countries and international agencies quickly followed suit. This led to the erosion of liquidity of both the central bank and commercial banks. Dollars are important to the Afghan economy. Dollars and Afghanis are both saturated in the local economy, so much so that 2/3 of deposits in the banking system and half of all loans are in American dollars. On the ground, it means that salaries were unpaid, local businesses were shut down, even hard-earned savings of common Afghans were constrained by withdrawal limits. A lack of funds can also mean that wireless carriers may have to shut down their businesses, being unable to pay suppliers, effectively cutting off the country from the rest of the world. The Afghan economy doesn't even have local currency in circulation, as the previous Ghani government allegedly did not print enough currencies before Kabul's fall. International funds accounted for 45% of the Afghan GDP, which financed 75% of the state's expenditures. A UN report says that Afghanistan's GDP could decline by 13.2% in the fiscal year that ends in June 2022. This is likely to send the entire population of 38 million into poverty. An Afghan economic collapse is likely to hurt neighboring countries too. This is why the Central Asian region is also interested in Afghanistan. India and other countries who attended the Moscow meet are concerned that the economic crisis could exacerbate the refugee and terrorism crisis as well.